What's up, guys? So every year I release these surf videos. I just I would say I make like 2 to 3 a year, and they're always followed by a lot of different questions. How to handle the surf, what kind of kayak should I be in, and so I wanted to kind of go through my approach. And so that question can be so hard to answer, man, because there's so many variables. So before I get into it, just full disclosure here, there are a lot of different ways to attack the surf, and the way that I get at it is definitely a little bit more of an advanced entry. I'm going forward out and I'm going forward in. A lot of guys enjoy coming back in backwards. They feel like it's a little bit safer. My personal opinion on that is that it's not actually safer, but if it makes you feel safer, well then continue to do that. And if it's working for you, I won't argue that with anybody. But just me personally, my experiences, as far as what I've learned with broaching, low and high bracing, and rigging properly, I would much rather fail going forward than going backwards and having a kayak fall flat in front of me. So that's just my opinion. You guys may have a different opinion on that. So for the most part, the windows that I fish, they're pretty much just run and gun conditions. A few of those waves will turn at about 2.5, even 3 at times. There's a particular wave that you really want to be very careful with here in Texas. I call them slammers. And it's not the whitewash, it's not the pushing water. It's literally that curl moment where the wave is just turning on you and it slams straight down. It doesn't really build up slowly, it actually builds up real quick. And when the current and rip is sort of sucking out at the right amount, the waves are folding, the wind is sort of assisting with those waves folding, man, it can create some pretty gnarly conditions that you really should kind of time out and hold back on. Because if you cannot build enough speed and not build enough momentum, those are the ones that are going to crush you. And if you don't know what to expect as a result from getting slammed, that's where a lot of guys get caught. So once we get past that 3-foot mark, that's when we begin to seeing a little bit more timing. You definitely want to study the surf a little bit. You want to see, well, how often are these waves coming? Sometimes here in Texas, they're just one after the other. And it's just whitewash after whitewash, and then a big slammer, and then it kind of mellows down a little bit, pushes, lays a little flat. It's doable. You may have a 40-second window, you may have a 20-second window, you may have up to a minute. Those are those little laydowns that you're looking for, but you got to know when to gun it. That can be sort of the tricky thing, because it's Mother Nature. She's unpredictable. Just because you're counting a laydown every minute doesn't mean that by the time you get out there, all of a sudden she just gives you 20 seconds and game over. You miscalculated everything. I think the most important thing is when you fell in the surf, you need to know why you failed. That's one thing that I sort of harped on myself. Every time I failed, if I got destroyed going out, if I got destroyed coming in, I had my cameras rolling and I wanted to know why I messed up. Now, you're not going to be 100% in the Texas surf. Like, you're going to get crushed eventually. We all know this. We all accept this. But always have a good reason. If you can explain why you got crushed and not make an excuse, if there's a reason behind it, and if you can figure out that reason, I think that sort of builds you into a much better paddler in the surf. So better than just talking your ear off, let's go ahead and put you right in the back seat with me. And I think there's a lot that could be learned here. I'm going to sort of take you guys on my thought process, what I'm looking at, what I'm looking for, what are my concerns going and coming as well. First thing you're going to notice is my head, man. You'll notice that I'm not really too concerned about what's going on around me. It's almost as if I'm looking past the horizon with the way that you see my neck, and actually what I'm looking at is a concern. I'm looking at some really big 4.5, possibly maybe even 5 foot towards the third bar. Now, they're not breaking that huge all the time. Their average is about 4-footers back there, but I've already counted, since I have arrived to the beach, I've already counted 5 that are probably nearing, if not getting pretty close to 5 footers, which is concerning. Those can destroy you. You know, those can hurt you, and it's just something to keep note on. And that's exactly what I'm doing, man. Is I'm actually counting as I'm going. I'm trying to figure out and study as much as I can. Now pushing forward, you're gonna notice, man, like I'm just taking these waves, you know, and the reason I'm taking them is because I'm concerned. I'm still trying to time things out, further out ahead of me, and I have realized now that the windows from when I got there to when I've launched have probably gone down about a good 30 seconds. So when I got to the beach, I was counting about a good minute, and that third bar was relatively clear. I mean, it was still breaking, but it was all doable. And then things just really started to change right here. I was only given about 30 seconds. And my concern is that, well, then my time from when I decide to gun and break through the third bar is, I don't know if it's going to be enough before I hit a big one. You know, so I'm already nervous, and I already know that I'm going to cut something close here. I just don't know how it's going to come at me, so it's concerning. So at this point in time, things begin to sort of calm down, you know, and I've already begun that mental clock in my head. This is that point in time that we talked about earlier where things begin to slowly calm down, but it won't be long before the big ones start to roll in again. And I know this sort of is like the big no-no in the industry, right? The name of the game is to go, bust through, boom, 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 just keep paddling. But Texas is different, man. When they get this big, you know, I've been in the surf long enough to know when and where I need to put the brakes on. And the reason for this is because whitewash doesn't really scare me in Texas. Actually, I prefer it, even if it's just 3 foot of it and I lose ground because of it. And it's actually one of the beauties of a good hull design, you know. Some of these kayaks, man, they go just as good backwards as they do forward, and that actually helps you out, man, especially out here, because once you get pushed back, you know, as long as you can maintain your balance and have good control with your paddle and you feel comfortable moving backwards, even though at times you can move pretty quickly, that gives you sort of enough time to just say, all right, let's get a second shot at this, let's time things out. Let's face it, not all kayaks are designed to go backwards, and I've seen guys pivot and turtle. I've seen them just flop over sideways. I've seen the back ends even dig in. So that's just something to kind of keep an eye out on if you do love to paddle. So one of the challenges in Texas surf is just the sloppiness of the waves. You know, none of them are pretty. They'll come at you from different directions at times, and because of those odd angles that some of these waves can hit you on, I always harp on guys, never underestimate your hips. Your hips on a kayak, they can help you make the smallest little adjustments that would otherwise may plummet you down into the water. You'll see me at times shifting with my paddle and shoulders, and I will actually scoot my hips. I'll try and build or jerk a certain momentum to sort of just make those little small corrections on that Texas slop that we get at times. This is gonna be fun! Come on. Let's see if I can find a gap. I really don't want to get crushed by a fork, so I am gonna try and find a gap. Hopefully lay down a little bit. This morning there was like a 30 to 40 second window. It didn't last long. Not when I was out there. I waited it out though, and I pushed when I could find the seam. It was a very small seam, but I got through it, so that's all that matters. Like right here at the like third bar, fourth bar, there's some big ones, man, and that's the one that comes out and it'll get you. That's the one that I want to avoid. I'm looking at it right now. It's intimidating. Holy moly. Let's see if I can. Pray that I can get in the gaps. Look at that. Coming.